Okay, here we go. Get out your calculator and let's just talk about these. Try to keep up. And if you miss one step, you're like, oh, I missed that one. Well, don't freak out. Like, you're going to learn all about this calculator anyways. You're going to be using it all day, every day anyways. But at the same time, if you want to stop me and go, wait a minute, how do you do that? I'll come wandering over. I might not even stop teaching. I'll be teaching along. I'll press something on your screen and you'll give a thumbs up like this. So we'll just cruise through this. Okay, the nice thing about this calculator is it does lots of things, and the way to access all those things is right there on menu. So if you press menu at any particular time, what you're going to get is the menu system of the calculator, and from that you can select the various modes that the calculator does. There are shortcut keys. You see it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, A, B, C, and sometimes the PowerPoints will mention the shortcut. I don't ever use the shortcuts. I press menu and I look at the screen and I go, what am I trying to do here? And then I just arrow around to get to the spot I want to get to. But if you're a shortcut person, you go ahead and be a shortcut person. So that's what it says here. Menu, and then use the arrows to choose the mode you want to go into, and then press EXE for execute. Execute passes for, yes, do this. It's like clicking with your mouse. But it also is the equal sign when you go to do a calculation. So it does both on the calculator. Alternatively, you can press whatever shortcut key you see there. Okay, so run mat mode. To turn this into a regular calculator, the calculator that you normally use, you go to run mat mode. Yeah? So run mat mode is where you go. You go to that one and press execute, and now you get a normal calculator screen that you can do normal calculations that you would do every day of the week. Oops, back to run mat mode, and then back to here. So, why does it say run mat? It also does matrix calculations. We don't do many matrix calculations this year, but you can be guaranteed when you show up at university, they're going to talk about matrices all the time. Hello, Miss T, how are you?
Hi, good, how are you?
Good.
Is it too late to sign up for the grade 11
I emailed you. The one that's on Wednesday is a grade 11/12. Probably not the right contest for grade 11s. Their main one is in February. That's the one they want to sign up for, yeah. So, once you're in, what?
He asked how to clear.
Oh, okay, so once you're in run mat mode, try this. Let's just try and do a normal calculation. We'll do log 4, so you press the log button. I don't remember what logs are, if you're freaking out. I'm going to teach logs tomorrow. We'll talk about logs for now. Let's just make sure we can get our calculator to do it. So you go log 4 plus 27, and you've got a squared button. I encourage you to use the squared button when you're doing squared, not when you're doing other exponents. And then minus square root 155. The square root's in an awkward spot. It's over top of the squared button, so look for that. Minus square root 155, answer 9,076. Oh, I forgot to put plus there. Okay, so I'm going to go back and arrow back. It's nice about this editing feature. I didn't do this on purpose, but you can just arrow back and put plus there, and then I get 742.05. Do you get 742.05?
It says minus.
Oh, minus, thank you. But you see how cool this calculator is, and maybe you already had a calculator that did that, where you could go back and edit what's on the screen. 717.15?
Yes.
Yeah, so it does, the only thing this slide's showing is this will do whatever your old calculator does, no problem. Just type it in there, okay? How about 4.2 to the power 5? Okay, so if you want the exponent button, if you've never seen this before, is a little tilde, it's called. Looks like the top of a house. And we use that symbol anytime we're on computers, or if you're typing a message to me and you want to write an exponent. That little tilde means exponent in any electronic thing usually. And I want exponent 5. And then, oh, the next one is E, which we just talked about in the last lesson. And E's on this calculator. You look over top of, it's called ln, a little ln, but above there is an E. So you go shift and then, oops, I didn't hit the shift apparently. So anything you want that's above that, you use the shift buttons. And so I'm using second. So now it's e to the power of 3. And then they wanted fifth root of 8.7. Wow, okay, so fifth root, if you look over top of your tilde button, over top of your exponent button, there's what's called an x root button. And before the x root button, you put the number of the root. So you go fifth root of 8.7. And that's how you do crazy roots like that. So it says x in the root, and what they're saying is whatever number you put out front, that can be your root number. You can be cube root, fourth root, fifth root, whatever you want. That X root button you might have seen before. Other calculators have an X root button. I get 1325.456. Good so far? Yeah. Linear mode versus math mode. Okay, this is important. If all that other stuff you're like, well, I would have figured that out anyways. I don't need Mr. Todd to find the buttons for me. But there are two main modes when you're in math mode like this. When you're in run mode like this, there's two modes, linear and math mode. And I actually finally learned last year that you don't have to memorize which each mode does. If you can't find a certain button when you're in one mode, just check the other mode. Basically, math mode is supposed to be set up for people who are taking math, which you'd think would be everybody who has a calculator like that, but maybe it's not. In math mode, it'll try and help you out. It'll try and think the way you're wanting to think. Here's what I mean by that. To get into math mode, we're already in calculator mode here called run mode. Now go to setup. So shift menu, and you get this weird menu here, and it says input type, mode, fraction result, function type, all these things that might come up. Notice angle radians is in there. That's going to come up soon where you want to switch from radians to degrees. So that's all in there. And right now it's in linear mode. This is one weird thing about the calculator. This is why you came today. Is that, see these two options here down here, math and linear? To choose between those, you have to use the F1 or the F2 keys. So it's like a menu across the bottom where these F buttons select those things. So if I want to go to math mode, I press this F1 key on the screen there, and you see it switches to math mode. We'll spend most of our time in math mode. You'll like math mode better than linear mode. But there's the odd thing, for some reason, it's like they ran out of room in math mode that they put over in linear mode. So if you really can't find something on the menus that you need, maybe it's in linear mode. What was the one? Function memory was over in linear mode. No, it was in math mode, wasn't it? It ended up being in math mode. But there's something that comes up, and I can't remember what it is. Somewhere in the way, all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's, for some reason that's in linear mode. So then I'm just going to exit out of that. So now I'm in math mode. Notice some new menus have come up here, and we're going to love these menus. So how do you know if you're in math mode? If you got all the menus, you got 4 menus down there, you're in math mode. I need to warn you, your calculator is an fx-9860GII. My emulator is an fx-9860GSD. Once in a while, my screen will look a little different than yours, and we'll just have to work with that together.
Maybe too many.
No, you just probably just scrolled over to other menus. You'll see in a minute. Don't worry about that too much. Yeah, it'll be all right. Oh yeah, you just scrolled over, see? Yeah? And again, if it doesn't look exactly like mine, don't freak out. Mine isn't the same calculator. It's like mostly the same. Like you've got the iPhone 12 and I've got the 10. And so every once in a while we're just going to have to, figure out how it looks on your screen versus mine. Question?
I think I have the wrong modes. Because even looking at Grace's, she has basically what you have, but then I have that.
I just pressed exit.
Oh.
Yeah? So that's a menu system underneath there. Every once in a while you might have to press exit to get back to your basic functions. Okay. Okay, so in math mode, it'll often give messy answers in exact form. So if you got like square root of 8, for example, math mode will handle that better. Linear mode is single line for input and display of expressions and expresses messy answers as decimals. What do you mean by that? Okay, let's do a couple examples. Let's talk about in run math mode. Oh yeah, I did all that. I showed you how to get from math mode to linear mode. But let's do square root of 8 in math mode. Mine doesn't do the right thing for some reason. I did this yesterday and it didn't do the right thing. So actually be in math mode and go square root, of 8. Notice mine says 2.82. That's what linear mode says. Yours should say 2 root 2, which you should be excited about. Like, oh yeah, that's what you want, is the ability to quickly do radicals and get them simplified like that. So root 8, it comes up as 2 root 2. Now you're like, yeah, but what if I do want the decimal? You've got a button called FD, literally fraction to decimal. If you hit FD, you see it'll switch over to what I got, which is 2.82, and then FD, you can switch it back and forth. So that's a nice mode. Mine, there's something wrong with the ROM on mine, and so I don't get the right thing. But yours should say 2 root 2 when you do that in math mode. Okay, let's do the ABC button. This is nice. If you're in math mode, if you use the fraction button, so you go 7, and then you hit the fraction button, you literally get a fraction on your screen when you hit that. Mine doesn't do it. Yes? But when you type this in, these fractions, you should see it says 7 over 18. Great for typing stuff in when you actually see that fraction on the screen. Are you getting regular fractions on the screen? Yeah, as soon as you do that, you don't have to type the rest of it in because you're like, okay, I get it. The fractions will look like fractions. And so when you're typing in not just fractions, but complicated expressions, you've now got a numerator and a denominator to type into. Mine doesn't do it on the screen there.
So that FD button, is that like how we switch between math and linear mode?
No, just to switch the answer over to decimal. Literally go, well, I'm rounding here. I need 2 decimal places. So then you'd hit that button to get out of that. But it doesn't actually switch the mode. You've got to go back into setup and hit that F1 or F2 to switch over. Okay? Sine 5 pi over 12. Okay, let me just type that in. First, let's make sure we're in radians. Go Shift, Setup, and if you look down at angle, you can go down to angle and arrow way down. And you get 2 options. Sorry, you get 3 options, degrees, radians, and gradians, whatever that is. But for us, degrees or radians. Mine's already in radian mode, so I'm quite happy there. But you might have to switch yours over. And then to leave that menu, press Exit. And then when you hit sine of 5 pi over 12, which it doesn't matter if you remember that 5 pi over 12 was a major league problem. That wasn't a simple one to do 5 pi over 12 at all. That wasn't on the special triangles. You needed the sine addition formula and the whole deal. That was a for real question. But the nice thing is this calculator, if you type in sine of 5 pi over 12, you'll get the answer there. When you do sine 5 pi over 12, see mine doesn't do it, you get root 6 plus root 2 over 4. And I go, oh, that's nice when you get it that way. Again, mine, that part of it is broken, but you should see on your screen root 6 plus root 2 over 4.
Just important mail delivery. Thank you.
Thank you. And some of that you can be like, okay, I sort of get it, but I sort of don't. You know, typing in the individual things, you're like, oh, what's 5 pi over 12 again? How does that work? How does radian mode? Don't freak out about all that. Just be aware that this calculator shows nice things for those type of answers when we get to them starting tomorrow, basically. Let's do some more. I'm going to keep it moving. Absolute value of log 5 of 3.4 in math mode. Wow. Okay, absolute value is not clearly in any of the menus. And if I look in math mode here, if you look through, you see I don't see absolute value in there. Absolute value is one hole in this particular calculator that it doesn't have an absolute value button. However, it's in the calculator, weirdly. It's just they ran out of space. So if you find the button called catalog, on mine it's over top of the 4, and you hit Shift 4, it brings up every function the calculator can do. You're like, I can't find this. And so you just scroll through and find it wherever it is. And if you go down, you'll see absolute value on the screen there. Mine just says ABS for absolute value. And you get the absolute value brackets? Cool, right? So if we want to graph absolute value, it's in the catalog. You may have to go to the catalog to find absolute value. Next, they want log base 5 of 3.4. Maybe you didn't have the cool calculator that had different bases. But if you go now into, see these menus along the bottom? One of them says log AB. And I can hit log AB and get log anything of anything. You're like, I still don't remember exactly what logs are. Yeah, okay, no problem. I'm going to teach logs tomorrow. The important thing is when you want to find log anything of anything, you don't need any tricks on this calculator. You can literally find log 5 of 3.4 right on the calculator. I get 0.76 when I punch it in. Okay, so logs, no problem of any base.
Where did you find the button log AB?
In these math menus along the bottom, if you go to math, then you can scroll across and get all sorts of fun stuff, including, Owen, derivatives, double derivatives. It's all going to be in there eventually, yeah? We'll get to that stuff later. So those bottom menus are a lot more powerful than you think, and the math menu is extremely powerful inside. So you hit math in the menus, and you get a whole whack of stuff, other stuff. This is the only weakness to this calculator. Sometimes the way it's all organized and where they put stuff is a little bit weird, and finding these things can be a challenge. So don't freak out when you're doing homework and it's tough to find a certain thing. You just got to play around and get used to the calculator. Like anytime you get new technology, right? You get a new phone, new computer, new iOS. You're like, okay, where is all this stuff now? Yeah. I'm trying to keep moving because I want to give you as much as I can. Function memory. Store and recall functions for repeated use. Now, this is a very powerful feature of the calculator that I personally find more painful than it's worth to put all the stuff in there, okay, to actually use it. So I'll show it to you once, but like I say, if by the end of it you're like, boy, they didn't make that easy, I agree with you. Storing functions in there is not this calculator's strength as far as I'm concerned. Calculator must be in linear mode for this. So back to setup, and instead of math mode, I'm going to linear mode. I lose a bunch of my menus. I only have one menu now left in all that. Oops. So in option. Okay, so to store function in there, I can go to option F6. Where's option? I can't read on my screen.
Beside shift.
Beside shift. Oh, there it is. Option and then F6. Don't memorize F6. Do you see these menus across here? When you go to option, it gives you a whole bunch of choices, and then it gives you a little arrow saying, and there's more over here if you want to keep going. And that's what they mean by pressing F6. And I'm going to press F6. I think it says press F6 twice. Oops. Yeah, F6 twice to get over to the menu I need. And then it says fmem, right? Sort of mysterious. Fmem? Function memory. I can put functions in there. So I press fmem, and then, choose a function number to put it in. And press, it says actually press F1, so storage. So I'm going to press storage, and then I got to choose which function to put in there. Maybe I've got a bunch of functions I want to store in there. Maybe I want to put the quadratic formula in there, for instance. Would be something you might do on your calculator so you have the quadratic formula ready to rock and roll. So you choose function 1 to put your first function. You see, it's got a whole list of functions I can put in there. And then to recall, I go option, and I go back and I do recall. Okay? How do I use it? Oh, to put in a specific value, I enter those numbers and so on. But I'm going to find a specific function to put in. Did they give me a specific function to put in there? No. Okay, so I get to make up my own function. So I'm going to go exit out of all that. And I'm going to make up a function to put in there. I'm going to put in x squared plus 2, something nice and simple. So I press my X button. There's a button that says x theta t. Why does it say x theta t? You'll find out. For now, in the mode I'm in, it goes, when I press that button, it just says x. Well, of course it does. X is normally the variable we use. But once in a while, we'll be doing something, and when I press that button, it'll say t, because it knows I want t. You'll see tomorrow. Yeah, it'll be good. Anyways, I'm just going to go x squared plus 2. That's my function. So I go to function, I hit the store button, and I store it in function 1. Now x squared plus 2 is in that function. Now I can plug numbers into it pretty easily. That is, if I want to evaluate, if I want to recall that function, I can right out of there. And if I want to evaluate it at a certain value, what I do is go to exit out of that, and it says in run mat mode, use function, choose a function number to recall. I did recall. Now I want to do to evaluate at a specific value. You're like, okay, now it's in there. How do I plug a number into that function? You go option, F6, F6, fmem. Okay, now this is the important line. enter the function number immediately followed by the value you want to evaluate at. So I go function one function 1, and then I put in brackets what I want to evaluate it at. So I want to evaluate it at, say, 5. Function 1 at 5. Why 1? Because it's the first function in the memory, and then when I plug that in, I get my 27 or whatever I want to put in there. Do you see what I mean, though? But it's a little awkward. For something like the quadratic formula, it would be worth it. For some random question in the homework on number 27, is it going to be worth it to store it in the memory and then plug things in it when you could just type into it? I don't think so. It has to be a function you're using a lot before you're going to put it into those memories. Okay? The instructions are all there, though. So if you get to that point and you want to try storing functions, go ahead. There's no time in the course where I ever feel like you need that. You do need this, though. Graphing mode. This is one of the fun things in the graphing mode. Graph and analyze relations. Please follow with me step by step on this because there's a couple of quirky things in here. Menu 5. Well, I don't use the menu numbers. I just go down and I go to graph. And it immediately goes, Y. You know, it's like, I know what you want to do here. You want to do a Y function. And then enter a function into the Y equations. For instance, Y equals 5x squared. So I go 5x squared minus 2x minus 10. And the first function, in the second function, I'm going to put Y equals 14x plus 1. Enter, so I've entered both those functions in there. And then it says use gsolve. Okay, this is me separating from the PowerPoint for a second to tell you the things that you really need to know about this. When I hit draw, this thing might zoom where I don't want it to zoom. So we got to talk about zooming. See, you're used to your iPhone, and zooming on the iPhone is like just use your thumbs, pull it apart, and everything like that. Zooming is not super friendly on here. So I hit that. You see what I get there? What a mess. It's got a parabola and a line there, and I can barely tell it's a parabola and a line when I hit draw. The first thing I always try is I hit this, see the view window button over top of F3? If you hit zoom. Zoom's the one I want. I can't see on my calculator. Let me look in yours. Which one's zoom? F2 is zoom. When you hit zoom, you got choices. Box, fact, in, out, auto. I immediately go to auto zoom. And I get the calculator to think about it and go, get the best possible zoom available. And it did a pretty good job. I can see how it's zoomed in. I'm going to press enter after that function. And then this one over here gets draw. So you got to press enter after that function. Okay, do you see how now I can see the parabola on the line? I don't know that it chose the best zoom available, but it chose a zoom that I can see everything that's going on there. So instead I'm going to go to zoom, and I'm going to do a zoom box where I get to choose and say, okay, I'm going to zoom in from here way over to, oh, no, I don't like what I just chose there. Draw, and I'm going to go zoom box. I like zoom box. So I go up there and I go, okay, I want to zoom in from my top left corner is going to be here, and my bottom right corner, you can do this much faster on yours. It takes forever on mine to get all the way over there. My bottom right corner is going to be there. See how nice that is? So I like that zooming. You're like, this zooming sucks. Well, if you're used to an iPhone, of course the zooming is terrible in comparison. Oh, yeah. Try it again. There's a way to reset memory. I had to do it on one calculator already that just was not behaving right, and I'll show you how to do that, reset the memory as well.
How do you find the squared option?
Yeah, just hit squared. Yeah. Oh, no, this is why we're doing these things. Okay. gsolve is the most important button once you're in graphing. It's for graphing solve. For instance, if I hit the G-solve button on here, it allows me to find the roots, the max, the minimums, the y-intercept, the intersection, calculate y values, calculate x values, calculate integrals for you. Only the physics people would know what's going on here. It's finding the area under the curve for you physics people. It does all that. Okay, so anyways, back to here. What does it want me to do for G-solve? It wants me to find the roots. Okay, that's easy enough. I'm going to press root, and it says which function. I got two functions on there. I can do the first one or the second one. I'm just going up and down, and I just press enter, and it finds the root. You're like, but I want the other root. You just arrow over, and it finds the other root. Yeah, good stuff. So G-solve, most powerful button on your calculator, I believe. What else do they want me to find? Find the parabola's minimum value. So I just go G-solve, and minimum, enter, boom, it finds the minimum. Really straightforward. So it does all of those things. Don't freak out if each individual function you don't have memorized yet. That's not what's important. What's important is you know what's in there, and you'll play around with those as you go. Find the point where the graphs intersect. So I'm going to go G-solve, intersection point, and it finds the intersection point. If I arrow over, it'll find the other intersection point. So it does all of it. Yes? Yeah, I'll come and take a look. Yes, sir. What can I do for you?
Borrow Julia for 30 seconds.
Certainly. Oh, fascinating. Okay, here's what I'm going to do to yours. Menu, system. See, the problem is someone had this calculator before you. So I'm going to reset all the memories, everything that's been done before, and then exit out of there, exit out of there, exit out of there, menu, and then try again. Okay? Yeah.
I don't know where my line is. One of the graphs is like.
Oh. Hmm.
I was kind of just doing what you were doing, and then it just disappeared.
You can have this cup. Come back to me.
Thank you.
Okay, I've seen all sorts of problems out there with zooming and windows going off the screen, all sorts of stuff. I got to tell you, none of that is a problem for anyone after about the first week. You get used to where the stuff is in the menus and so on. So no freaking out about that. I'm going to continue this lesson tomorrow. I'm going to do a second part to this video where we'll continue through and try and do some of these things, okay? Including regression. So if there's regression in the homework and those things, you can play around with it if you want, but I won't get to it during this class. Find the parabola's y value. Where was I? I'm going to graph, and it says find the parabola's y value, so I'm going to hit G-solve. And one of my options is y calculation. So you can literally go F1, choose a function, and when its y value, when its y value is, well, I don't want that one. I want G-solve x calculation for a y value of 17. And it finds the x value.
May we be blessed by God as we share this food and as we work and live together In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen.
So I'll pick up the PowerPoint right there tomorrow.